the only bit of VR news we have this week. Apparently, Sony is reportedly pausing PSVR2 production to clear excess inventory. Sales of the $550 headset are reportedly slowing due to lack of games, allowing inventory to pile up. And unfortunately, this is the case. However, Bloomberg suggests that there is content out there. They just maybe need to do a better job of pushing it. I mean, you got Horizon Call of the Mountain, you got Gran Turismo 7, you have the Resident Evil series. All of these are big AAA titles delivering amazing experiences. Like I myself, if I could have a helmet in Gran Turismo 7 with a wheel, I mean, that would be an experience on its own, I'm sure.
It's an experience with just a controller, because I don't have the wheel, but I do have GT7, I do have the headset, and it's a phenomenal experience. I think the headset's well worth the price of entry, personally. It's £529 here in the UK on its own. I've had that level of entertainment out of the headset in the year that I've had it. It's absolutely phenomenal, but if they're not selling through stock, you've got to pause creation of new stock to sell the old stock. This is how businesses work in all sorts of industries. I think we're going to see a bit of a slow burn on the PlayStation VR 2, similar to what we did with the original PlayStation VR, but I think that slow burn is going to ignite quite heavily later this year if that PC VR side of PSVR 2 comes through as well. So we know that they've been testing the headset to work with Steam VR, and if they get that working, if that comes out later in 2024, as Sony are trying to get it to do, that is going to be a massive catalyst under the headset. It's been one of the cheapest on the market with some of the highest specs on the market that is multi-platform compatible like no other. I think that will be a massive catalyst. And of course, when you've then got more people out there having this headset on more platforms, people are going to design games to take advantage of this headset more, and they're going to release it on all of the platforms where this headset is available. I think this is just smart business moves at the moment. They haven't sold through, well, we don't know how many they've sold through. They told us in May 2023 that they'd sold through 600,000 units, and we've not had an update since. So they've definitely not hit that million mark, because we'd have heard when they sold 1 million headsets. But it makes sense. It is a bit sad to hear, because I am absolutely loving my PSVR 2 journey. I think the software library is absolutely fantastic, especially if it's your first or only VR option in the home. It opens up so many doors that you've never experienced before. But yeah, it just needs a bit of time, and it's all about software support. You can have the most technologically advanced bit of hardware on the planet, but if there's no software to use on it, there's no point to that technological advancement. So we've got this amazing headset, we've got some amazing software with it. We just need more of it to convince more people to jump into the ecosystem and allow it to snowball and grow that way.
I agree. Definitely more software support is needed, and this PC compatibility will help, allowing the headset to have more legs. But we will let you know when PC compatibility comes to fruition. Right now, they are just testing it. So we'll, of course, keep everyone updated here. But let's move on from the headset, much like Sony is.
Oh,
Although,
savage.
I'm sure we'll see some first-party games coming out soon. I mean, they've got to have a plan for the latter half of the year, I would assume. So I'm hoping we see some VR titles really sort of push the boundaries, because I feel like we had something good with Call of the Mountain. You just need to follow it up with the latter half of the year. Give us something different, Sony exclusive. I'm talking Demon Souls in VR, something of that caliber, but a different genre to really bring more people into VR. I would assume they have a plan for that.
You would hope so. If you release an entire new VR platform separate from what your previous one was, with no backwards compatibility, you hope there's some form of plan in place for the future. We just haven't heard of it, but that has been PlayStation and Sony in the past 18 months. They've not told us anything, and it doesn't allow the community to muster many positive feelings when you have no information to work off.
So Wibbles says VR hasn't died like 3D TVs did. And I honestly feel like VR is still in its early stages. It will evolve to another place. I don't think it will die like 3D TVs. I just think it's going through growing pains. And I really do think that this will be a future technology we use. Um, Maker says, in my opinion, I think it would have helped if they launched with PC support. I think most people use Quest on PC. It might sell some unless PSVR2 has a big game changer on PC. I don't see it selling a ton. I think they need an exclusive VR game on PSVR that really brings people to say, I need to try this. I need to get on here. And that's what I think they're missing a little bit. Call of the Mountain, it didn't pull me in. But if you have a VR headset, it is a great option to play in. Also, I don't have space to play VR, so I feel a little bad. It's hard for me to comment.
Most of the VR titles you can get they have the three modes of VR. So you've got standing, sitting, and room scale. Things like Gran Turismo 7, you play them sat still. You're in a car. You're not going to be dancing around a room or anything, are you? So you sit down. You've just got the headset on. It's immersive, and so
we drive differently.
Checking your mirrors, and we drive differently. So that one's sitting. Call of the Mountain, you're standing still a lot of the time. The most you're doing is like turning in 360 degrees. You're not really, again, jumping around the room, dancing around the room. It's all in arm and head movement that game happens, and then you've just got your sticks to move sideways and dodge and such. I think you would be able to make a lot of use out of VR, even in your current space. It's just a case of whether you can afford the VR. To address Maker's point, I've seen a lot of PC VR users use the PlayStation VR2 headset and beg for PC support because the headset is just leaps and bounds beyond what is on that price point on PC VR. Yes, it's wired. That is going to be a drawback for some people, but that means there's zero latency. That means you're still getting your 4K visuals. You're still getting 120 frames per second. You've got that foveated rendering with eye tracking, which takes a lot of pressure off the GPU, so that your games can look absolutely phenomenal to you inside the headset, but the game doesn't need to be rendering everything. I think if this does get a PC release, because of its price point and because of how plug and play it is, I do honestly think it will be a bit of a catalyst, and it could even challenge Quest a lot of the time.
Well, time will tell. I think PSVR2 is hurt, but not down and out. They haven't given up completely, and I still believe they have first-party PSVR2 titles in the pipeline ready to go that will bring more people into the landscape of VR2. That's just my expectation, and I do think AR technology will help VR gaming, and I just think that we're in the early growing pains of that technology. I mean, not a lot of people like strapping this thing onto their face just because of sheer weight and heat, and I think that's just a technology thing. I mean, eventually we'll get to smaller, lighter, cooler, and at that point it'll be a no-brainer when the graphics are undeniably amazing and the gameplay is there.
We've already got one that's really small. It's called the Big Screen VR, and it's basically a pair of sunglasses. It's a really small VR headset. It's wired again. It's not wireless, but it gives you a really high-resolution image. It's perfectly made to your face, and it's a lot lighter than anything else because it's the size of a pair of sunglasses. So yeah, I think you're right. It's one of those things that will advance quite drastically. And there's going to be different versions depending on what you want. Like, there's different consoles, like there's different PCs and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's a long way from
Shots
gone.
fired,
Yeah.
Dorgon. Pay your eyes to the chat, and Miss Phoenix is calling you out. I'm ignoring Miss Phoenix. Okay, because that was a saber to the heart. Oh my goodness.
Well, she says, if only Doragon was as elite on Beat Saber as me. Look, I am going on Saturday to see a band that put the hardest song ever in Beat Saber. What have you got going for you, Miss Phoenix? I could beat things on Expert Plus. You can't even beat your niece. I mean, come on. Buy a PSVR 2 and challenge me.
Absolutely. I think everyone has their own groups. I think the Quest has been able to dominate the market in terms of saturation for VR. However, those people out there looking for higher quality, trying to min max their dollars for graphics and specs, may take a look at the PlayStation as a viable option. There are a lot of PC players who are now being introduced to PlayStation games for the first time, and perhaps this will get them taking a second look into PSVR2. These are all avenues which I could see people being introduced to PlayStation VR, which a market has been saturated heavily by Facebook. So, yeah, it's all about just getting your product out there and in front of eyes. And I think the software needs to speak for itself to draw people in.